Hi all, welcome back to the channel, hope you're all doing alright. Just going to give a quick review of this Winter of WOE fight and just sort of share my concerns about the philosophy behind these fights. I know people have talked at length about complaining about the sort of energy costs, which I think are fair. Also the actual nodes themselves are a little bit taxing. I think the toggle with the brute force is just a bit of an unfair combo, especially when the AI just doesn't want to throw a special, or you don't have openings to get in there and actually avoid that degen. The Indomitable node is a bit annoying because of his regen, but you can play around that, so I guess that's fine. But all in all, especially with the tags, and good on Kabam for sort of admitting to this, but some of those options available are really taxing. But this video is less about all of that and more about what these fights could represent. And I think these fights are a really good opportunity where you take a character like Carl and you can present like sort of the most comic book sort of equivalent challenge, as if you're fighting him in his truest form, as if he was a comic book villain. And what I mean by that is that if we look quickly at his wiki page, I don't know if you can see this. You can't see this, hold on. Cool, hopefully you can see this now. I'm on Carl's wiki page, and I think the tags here can be used thematically to showcase his history as a comic book character. So he gets his power from Asgardians, right? So you would think that actually we should have a tag related to that. We did have a tag which was Gamma, and that's a bit of a theme for him. He goes up against Hulk. With Masters of Evil, they go up against the Avengers. Hulk is sort of his counterpart, as we see, I think it's further down here, Gamma Flight. So that one makes sense. But yeah, he goes into like a prison that Hank Pym creates where they're miniaturized. But I think more importantly, despite sort of those more obvious tags, is the fact that his actual ability is about making contact with someone in the same way Rogue would and absorbing the material to be used, right? He's called Absorbing Man. So I would have liked to have seen from this fight some nodes that really like encourage that theme. And I've got a few nodes here that are related to contact, right? So if his whole thing is about making contact with materials and absorbing that power, I would have liked the Valiant objective to be defeat him without making contact with him. Perhaps the nodes instead could be something like that. So Crackling Energy, I think this would have been a good one. Striking the defender with a contact attack puts a passive energy damage over time effect on the attacker, dealing damage. But if you make a non-contact attack, you remove the charges. I think that would have been quite good. It's thematically quite good for Carl. Where's this? There's a few others here. Psychic Thorns, that would have gone nicely with it. And then Pull, that would have gone nicely with it. So there's a theme related to the character if they chose these nodes about making contact with him. And considering that's his whole deal, I would have liked, you know, the challenge to be related to his character rather than just nodes that are going to make his in-game counterpart more difficult. I would have liked the nodes to have actually played on, you know, his character in the comic. So say we had Crackling Energy and we had Psychic Thorns and we had Pull here. There's no real leeway for actually good gameplay to sort of play around these nodes. So I would have developed, or like to have seen developed with these three nodes, a node where intercepting the defender makes all of your attacks non-contact. So that way you get the additional damage by playing well and intercepting. You avoid the damage being taken, and you also don't get these passive energy damage effects. So I think those three, as a combination with that new node, would have really represented a really nice thematic challenge against Cole, and it would have felt very comic accurate. And then in game as well, with these nodes, you've got passive energy damage. So that's like he's in his magma form, right? You've got physical contact damage. He's in his Uru form, right? And then you just have generally the contact attacks deal less damage, which is comic book accurate. So I would like to see more emphasis on sort of bringing his comic accuracy to life within these challenges. And I think that would be a really good thing moving forwards. I'm going to give an example as well here of Charles Xavier. We sort of all know about him, right? So that's why I'm using him as an example. He's not the most difficult person to fight against in game. If you power drain him, you're going to be removing his charges. That means that he's going to be less likely to mind control you. And we all know about his history I mean, I don't know everything here, but I'm sure you don't either. But I think looking at the tags in game, if we just go to Aunt May quickly, there's a few that really jump out that should be really obvious. Brotherhood and Mutant, these champions against Professor X make sense. We've seen sort of this theme about the Brotherhood of Mutants in all the films. We've seen it in the comics. I think this is a tag for Professor X would make sense for the character, less so about the actual in-game version of him. Another one I would pick is the Illuminati, because he's a member of that. There's a few bad champions here, of course, but again, Professor X isn't that difficult to play against, so I think this would have been quite cool. It's, you know, honouring the fact that he is a member of this really elite group. And then as an actual challenge, you know, your Valiant challenge, I would have set the objective of defeat Professor X without ever undergoing the effect of mind control. So without being mind control, you're going to be looking at champions that are either going to look to not let him get to that many charges through like power draining, say, or maybe you're looking at the psychic shielding tag. If I can find that, here it is. So maybe these champions which are immune to it, and that's like sort of comic book accurate, right? If I was in a comic and I was going to go up against Professor X, my one objective is to not get mind controlled. So that as an objective within the game, I think makes a lot of sense. So I've got a few notes here that will sort of play into him as a character. His thing in game is all about, you know, you build your charges and your power so that you can spam special attacks whilst in mind control. And you see that with the special 3 animation. So I would create nodes that sort of rely on power, like your power meter and power draining. So for example, power alternator here, I think power reversal and power bonds. They'd be 3 really good, and maybe redlining as well actually. So I'll just pause and let you read them. I won't read them to you. But essentially the whole mechanic here is about giving you lots of power and then having that be drained, whilst also giving him power and making it so the power drain is less effective on him. So yeah, hopefully I'm sort of making sense with sort of why I think these fights can be improved just from like a comic book accuracy, or sort of making them feel a bit more fun, like I'm actually going up against the character and not the nodes. Hopefully those 2 examples have made sense for you and you're sort of getting what I'm throwing down. If you have any other examples with other characters, you know, if you want to create one for Ant-Man, who is one of my favourite characters, then yeah, leave it below. But hopefully this gets out there and people take it on board, that these challenges where it's just like a one-off character like this, we should be like investing in the character profile and not the champion design. I think a lot of these nodes actually play to his in-game abilities, like being immune to damage over time and armor break and indomitable. So yeah, hopefully that's making sense. I'm trying to highlight we should be focusing on the character, not the in-game kit. So yeah, if you enjoyed, you thought this is, you know, a fair point, share it, let other people know. As I say, leave some examples in the comments of what sort of champions you think this could work for, where you're relying on their character rather than their skill set or their kit. And you can take characters that are maybe not as good, so let's say Doctor Strange, and you can give him a bunch of nodes that are sort of right for the character but maybe not as good for his kit, so that the fight feels like you're fighting him, not the nodes. But yeah, hopefully that makes sense. Let me know your thoughts, and I'll catch you soon.